Okay, good morning. Shin Chavav Seif Chet. Chet. Okay. Adam mutar litbol mitumato b'Shabbos. So we already spoke mostly about what there is about mikvah on Shabbos. So even though there's a din derabanan about toveling your kelim that are tameh, and you want to make them tahor, that din derabanan only applies to a kelim. It's like it's ki'ilu, you're repairing tikkun mana of the kli. So therefore there's an isur derabanan. By people, there is no such isur derabanan, and it's all mutter. And that's really what this seif is about. Previously we spoke about hot water or cold water, and the Shulchan Aruch wasn't worried about even cold water, so that's what he's talking about. Hot water could be an issue, is probably an issue of, depending on the case, could be an issue of the gzeira of the merchatz. Okay. So as far as going to the mikvah so we already mentioned that, there's a question by women. Generally it's mutter for women, and even though they're Ashkenazim are generally machmer even with cold. Right, that's basically it. And for a guy who wants to go every morning and goes for Shabbos, so many are mekel and some are machmer. Or if they go, they make sure it's cold water. But okay, let's go on. Tet. Mutar lirchotz panav yadav veraglav bidvarim she'ena mashirim se'ar me'oravim im dvarim hamashirim. Bilvad shelo yeh harov min davar hamashir. So really what the issue is over here, you're not allowed to, you're 100% allowed to wash your face, hands, and feet with water, the minority part of your body. And it can even go, you can even wash your face even though you have a big beard. We're not worried about schita when it comes to the beard. And you just can't do schita, wring out your beard with the water. You can either pat dry it, and some say you can even dry it regularly with a towel. Just no amaisa schita. However, he points out, it can't be with something, you can't use an object on your skin that's going to rip out or make your hair fall out. That would be, that's asur. And even if you mix an item with something that's partially pulls out your hair and part of it doesn't, so then the expression here is rov, you go after majority, but really it's more of a metzius issue. If it's a psik resha, for sure it's going to pull out even one hair, and don't use it. If it's not a psik resha, then it's okay to use it. Okay, yud. Mutar lechotz yadav b'mursan. You're allowed to wash your hands with mursan, and we're assuming mursan is not going to pull out the hair. Some kind of, I don't know how it works. Some kind of brand, I don't know. But you're allowed to use it to wash yourself, to rub yourself, if it's to clean it, and we're not afraid that it's going to pull out your hair. And that's the problem. Pulling out your hair would be, could be gozes. Maybe it's only we're only talking about derabanans over here because it's not your kavana. And okay.
What is mursan?
Mursan is some kind of a brand, I don't know, some material, but it doesn't matter. Any material that's not going to pull out your hair, or it's for sure not going to pull out your hair, then it's not a problem to use. And the Ramah points out, the gibul kala achar yad shari. Even though we mentioned that brand is something that, again, we mentioned it's lav bar gibul, so according to most, it's only going to be an issue derabanan. But since with water, it holds it together, it doesn't really become one item, but it holds it together and it becomes sticky like some kind of a paste. So it's going to be, if you were to mix it together, we learned that would be lisha. But here, so you can't make a whole mixture, again, we learned that already. But if your hands are wet, even though your hands are wet, and when you touch it, it's going to get a little bit sticky, that's not a problem. It's called kilach haryad. It's not done intentionally, it's done really in a strange fashion, just a little bit, and that's 100% mutter, you don't have to worry about it. V'asur lirchotz yadav b'melach, so you can't rub your hands with salt to clean them. We pretty much learned this already. V'kol shekein b'vorit shekorin zeif b'lshon Ashkenaz, and so too with these soaps that they had, b'sha'ar chaylev, and with shenimuach al yadav, or with other kinds of fats to clean your hands. Why? Because when you rub your hands with these items, again, we're talking about a case when it's going to turn into a liquid, v'have nolad. So anytime you rub something, and by rubbing it, it's going to turn it into a liquid, so there's an issue of nolad. If you're rubbing it and it's not going to happen, then that wouldn't be a problem of nolad. The only problem that it could be is you have to just make sure it's not an issue of memachik, of scraping something down. So generally, almost all poskim will say it's asr to use a bar soap. Now when you read, it's hard to understand a little bit when you see what different poskim or Rishonim write about soap. So it's hard to know a little bit the metzias. What kind of soap are they talking about? What kind of soap are we using? And etc. And is it referring to a hard soap, a liquid soap? But so keep it in mind that sometimes it's a little hard to understand exactly. But anyways, so bar soap is generally considered asr. There is an opinion that says it's mutter if you're using it under running water and it's not obvious what's happening, but that's a very small opinion. Okay, what about liquid soap? So liquid soap, we're about to see, you're allowed to rub oil. I think we saw this already. Again, we're going to see it soon. You're allowed to rub oil on your body. So I think everyone has to say, if it's a runny liquid soap, it's 100% mutter to wash your hands with it. There wouldn't be an issue. If no lot, it's already a liquid, and its bubbles are just a liquid, and you're not changing it from a solid to a liquid. The gray area, and again, different poskim have different takes. It would be if it's a thick liquid soap. Ramosha Feinstein writes that the minhag is to use all liquid soaps, but he says you should be machmer on liquid soaps. And the question is, I don't know the answer, but what liquid soap is he talking about? So how runny? So some say that if it's really runny, everyone would say it's mutter. Again, you have to ask everyone. And if it's it depends. If it's a soap that's a liquid, but it doesn't really run so quickly or it doesn't move, so then that's when it's a machloket if you have miruach in such a case. Okay. Yud Aleph. Merachat shesat v'nekava merav Shabbos. L'motzei Shabbos rochetz bo miyad. If you have a bathhouse, we're back to the bathhouse case, and now they heated it up from the fire. The fire came from underneath, and I don't know if it was right underneath or from a different. And the fire came through some kind of holes to get through. Was it in a room underneath, or like a little? I don't know how to explain. Like a little platform underneath, but there was an opening where the fire comes up and heats up the bathhouses or the bathtubs, and you were able to close them. That's the case we're talking about. So if you're basically able to cover the fire is still on, but you're able to cover the fire completely, and it's not acting and heating the way it normally does. So once Motzei Shabbos comes, you're allowed to use it immediately, because we're assuming that the fire didn't heat it up on Shabbos. Maybe it kept it warm, but it didn't really heat it up, and therefore they weren't gozer in such a case for after Shabbos. But if it was being heated the normal way with the open fire going straight to the bathtub, and you left it open on Shabbos, so that Motzei Shabbos, immediately Motzei Shabbos, you can go in there. So in that case, Alpha Pishame Elav Hucham, even though it's happening by itself this Shabbat, because you set it up Erev Shabbos. In other words, there's no Isser Deraisa over here, but since it was being heated up normal with the open flame, Tzarich Lahamtin La'erev Bichdei Shiasu. So you just have to wait until Motzei Shabbos, how long it would take to heat up the bathhouse.
So if your Lushon is left on over Shabbos, you have to wait to use the hot water until the Shiasu?
No, there's no Gzeira Merchatzos on boilers today, so you don't have to worry. Lefisha asur lasot kein Gzeira shama yachateba gechalim. And they made this Gzeira because you might come to stoke the coals. And okay. So that was part of the whole Gzeira. And heating up a room also from one room to another, or whatever. The heaters, there's no gzera whatsoever. Mishnah Berurah points out, with heaters. It's only a gzera of merchatzot, and okay. I think that covers it. Yud Beis. Asur likanes lamerchatz afil aziyah. One is not allowed to go inside a merchatz, even if his only purpose is not to go into the bathtub. It's just to be in the room and sweat out. It's a shvitz. V'yesh omrim da'afil la'avor b'merchatz b'makom shiachol haziyah asur. And some say you shouldn't even walk in there if it's hot enough to make you sweat. Okay. Right, so that was part of the gzera, because people would say, right, what's the isser? So there could be an isser of making yourself sweat. That's a whole machloket. So, but here it's for sure it's isser to go into the merchatz for that reason, because people are going to go in there and they're actually going to go in the bathtub. And when people come out and people are saying, "What are you doing in the bathtub?" They're going to say, "I didn't go in. I just went for a shvetz." The reason why I'm wet is I was shvetzing. So, in order to prevent people from actually using the merchatz to enforce the whole gzera merchatz, it includes people are going in to sweat. Yirgimel. Irshi Yisrael ve'enam Yehudim. Now, here you have a city where you have Jews and non-Jews alike. So Darim ba, they live there. V'yesh ba merchatz rochetzet b'Shabbos. And it's the merchatz is open and being used on Shabbos. So im rov enam Yehudim. If most of the people using it are non-Jews, mutar lirchos v'motzei Shabbos miyad. You're allowed to use it immediately motzei Shabbos. We say it's for the non-Jews. Im rov Yisrael or afilu mechza mechza. But if the majority of the city is Jewish, or even half and half, asur lemotzei Shabbos ad kedei sheyucham. So then you have to wait till motzei Shabbos until it takes time to heat it up. So that's the same idea we had. Mishnah Berurah just points out over here, you don't really go by the city, actually, even though those are the words of the Shulchan Aruch. He says you go by people who use it in the city. So you go by the people who are normally would use it, even on a motzei Shabbos. In other words, if it's people who usually, you don't even go by Wednesday. You go by Saturday night. That's how he writes. Okay. Let's start to Sicha. Shin Chaf Zayin. Okay, anointing. Or rubbing oneself with oil. So Aleph. Hachoshesh b'motnav lo yasuch shemen v'chometz. So actually, the first beginning starts with refuah, which is really going to be more the next siman. So a person, his loins is not feeling so good, and he wants to rub his legs, or whatever he wants to rub, with this mixture of oil and vinegar. Okay, apparently that's what they used to use. Avasachu b'shemen levado. But you're allowed to use regular oil. Alright? Aval lo b'shemen vered, and also not this shemen vered, this, this rose oil. Mishum de mocha milta de refuah ka'avid, because it's muchach that it's for refuah. In other words, you can't use any item that people use only for refuah. Any item that people use for refuah and not for refuah, then you're allowed to do it, and it's not a problem of refuah. So you're allowed to rub shemen on your body. There's no isser in rubbing shemen. There's no meruach. There's no issues that way. There's no lash. There's nothing wrong with using shemen on your body. The only issue could be refuah, and so it depends. As long as some people use it here, v'imhu makom shematzui bo shemen vered v'derech b'nei adam asucho afil b'lo refuah muter. But any shemen, even I just mentioned, the Shulchan Aruch says shemen vered as an example that you can't use. That's because we only use it for refuah. But any shemen that people use when they're healthy, then you're allowed to use it, even if it's for you, it's for refuah. And you can even put it, the Mishnah Berurah says, even on a makkah. So it's obvious it's for a refuah. But since it's normally done for healthy people also, then it becomes mutter for everybody, and there's no isser derabanan. Because the whole issue of refuah is an isser derabanan, because if we allow people or when they did have people doing refuah on Shabbos all the time, it caused people to do tochin, grinding the herbs or whatever, or some kind of or spices, whatever they were grinding, in order to make it for refuah. So therefore, in order to prevent that, they said there's an isser of refuah, and we're going to see it's limited, as if doing Isurei Deraisa and Derabanan is not so limited, but just for the sake of Refuah and a Maisa that's 100% mutter, so it's very limited when they have this Gezerah, not to do Refuah. And in a place where nobody uses oil, except for Refuah, so then, B'kol Shaman Aser. So every Shaman will be Aser, right? It's a principle. It's not the example, it's the principle that matters. Okay? I'll mention real quickly, moisturizing creams. So there's no problem of moisturizing cream with lash. There's no problem with rubbing it into your body. The only issue that could be is how runny the moisturizing cream is. If it's a moisturizing cream that's really runny, similar to an oil, then for sure it's no problem. If it's a thick moisturizing cream, let's say you hold it vertical and it pretty much doesn't flow, so then that's when, whatever, any shade above runny is where there's a machloket if there's a problem with cream.
So what would be the reluctance?
It would be miruach. But it's not miruach of your skin, it's miruach of the shaman. So miruach of the shaman is if, in other words, you're smoothing and spreading out a thick cream. That's what could be the problem. Some say even if it's a little thick, it's not a problem because immediately it gets absorbed into your skin. Because it's not a problem of miruach of the skin; it's a problem of miruach of the cream. And normally, when you have miruach, it's when it's smoothed out and it's visible. You smooth something out on a table, on a cake, it may or not apply. But if it's when you're smoothing it, and when you end up with a product that you can see that got smoothed out, that's when you have miruach. But when something just disappears by touching it, by rubbing it, so some say it's not shaykh to call that miruach. So that's a machloket. Okay, bet. Sachin umemashmashin lahanoso al yedei shinui. Tahainu shesach umemashmesh biyachad v'lo yemashmesh bekoach ela berufon yadayim. So if a person wants to give massages with the hands, so that's okay. If a person wants to use oil, so then you have to do it with a shinui. So normally you gently rub in the oil. This is the way he writes. I guess it probably depends on the Metzius, but the way he explains in the Shulchan Aruch is normally you first rub the oil gently, and then the masseuse, or when you massage, you're going to rub hard on the skin that already has the oil. So the way to do it on Shabbos with oil is you put the oil on your hands, and at the same time you rub the hands right away. You rub the body right away. You do the massaging right away with the oil that's in your hand. You don't first put the oil. You put the oil that's on your hand, and then you rub it in together as you're doing the massage. You can't do a very hard massage. It has to be a light massage. So it depends, how you do it. I'm assuming most people, regular people, don't do it so hard, but it really depends on. Some people do, so it really depends. But a hard rub, that's seems to be the Isser Derabanan. Okay. Okay.
Chapstick on one's lips.
Chapstick. So that's probably an Isser Deraisa. Maybe Derabanan. That's probably an Isser Deraisa because you're taking a pretty hard item and you're rubbing it onto your skin, and you're getting a thin coat, a very thin coat on your lips.
What about putting oil on your lips?
So oil is 100% mutter. And if it's an item that sometimes people use, like any refuah, if it's an item that people only use for refuah, so then it's probably an Isser Derabanan, depending. But if it's an item that people also use just to prevent, then it's mutter. Any refuah that's preventative is also, there's no Isser there. If it's something that's normally done for preventative or for healthy reasons, there's no problem of refuah. It's only a problem.
If somebody's in pain.
So in pain. So it depends how much pain. But often we do say you do an Isser Derabanan with a shinoi when you're in pain. Mitzvah, say lo gazru. So, okay. Gimel. In regarding b'kli asui l'kach. So now, it mentions if you have a special kli used for massaging the skin. I don't know, I think the right word is a strigil. So in the olden times, they used to make some kind of, used to use metal or bone or some kind of a hard surface. They would carve it out and be a whole proper kli, and they would scrape their skin with it. That's how they would scratch themselves, and they would do that to remove oil or dirt or something, like a thin layer of sweat, and that's what it was. That's the kind of kli that I think we're talking about. Ela im kein hayu yadav o raglav metunafos petit v'tzela. So, if it's a special kli that was used for heavy scratching, and you can normally it would be aser on your skin. You're allowed to, but if your skin was dirty and it had like pieces of dirt on it, then also you're allowed to use it. It's not a problem of uvdin dechol. Okay. A simple back scratcher that people often can buy nowadays. So I don't know. I guess I'm sure there's a couple different opinions. Some say, well, first of all, the Gemara says with this item of this scratcher, this kli miyuchad, if you just have one that's special for during the week and special for Shabbos, so then you can use the one that's for Shabbos. We say there's this din of uvdin dechol using a special kli if it's the same kli that you do during their week, because it's just an issa derabanan of uvdin dechol. It's too weekday-like and it's inappropriate. So they made exera, but it's very possible a simple back scratchers that we buy, that we use on skin or we use on our shirts, and you probably would scrape it too hard, the whole thing would break. It's not the kli miyuchad that was used back then, as far as I know, and so definitely some would say that's okay. Okay. And along the same lines, that's why some are machmer by a toothbrush to have a special toothbrush on Shabbos. Because some want to say a toothbrush, to use the same toothbrush would be uvdin dechol. So I don't think they made exera on toothbrushes, but some say it's the same concept and there is such exera. Okay, even though you are cleaning dirt, or plaque from your teeth. So that's where some get the chumrah to have a special toothbrush for Shabbos. Okay. Daled. Lo yasuch raglo b'shemen v'hu b'toch hamina o asandal chadashim mipnei sha'or mitrakech v'damei li'ibud. So let's say a person wants to put moisturizing cream or oil, right? Oil on your feet. So Shulchan Aruch writes, you're allowed to pour the oil. You're not allowed to pour the oil on your feet while your feet are inside your leather shoes or leather sandals. Because as you're pouring it onto your feet, it's also going to get onto the leather of your shoes. And we know leather, oil is me'abed. It's tans, part of the tanning process or softening process for leather, and therefore it's like you're doing the ibud. Okay, now may not be your kavana. Okay, it's at least going to be an iser derabanan at the very least. About sach raglo umanicho bemino. So what do? You're allowed 100% to first put oil on your feet, and then you put your feet inside your leather shoe. V'sach kol gufo, and you can even, and the same thing, your whole body you can oil. Umit agel al gav haor, and then you're allowed to lie down or wear something that's leather, and it's not a problem. V'hu shelo yeh b'shemen and yishof migufo sher kadei la'abdo. On the condition though, you don't have dripping off of your body enough oil to be over the isser of ibud, of tanning or processing the leather. But just the fact that it's going to touch it and make it drop glossy, that's not a problem. But that's assuming you don't have kavana to be right? It's davar she'eno mechavin, and then it becomes, assuming probably we're talking about it's not a psikresha, but perhaps it is. Perhaps even if it's a psikresha, that's okay. It's a question. what I want to say. Just a quick thing on ibud. So Mishnah Berurah points out, ibud is done with salt. It's done, you can violate ibud deraisa both with salt by stepping on leather. Just a quick review on parts of ibud, because which makes it harder or softer, or rubbing it with your hand to make it softer, or making it softer with oil. Anything that helps the processing of leather, makes it last longer, makes it more usable. That's all part of the process. What?
Only leather?
Yeah, only leather. And shoe polish, I believe would be an issue of, if you're going to make it black, would be an issue of tzviya, and depending, again, on what kind of polish, I don't know, synthetic, not synthetic, very possible it would be ibud, but it probably depends what it actually does. Okay, let's finish. Or did we finish? Yeah, we finished. Yeah, we're done. We'll start refuah tomorrow.